Saw 6. Let's just get into it. Starting off with our opening trap, two people wake up. Billy explains they're predatory loan sharks with people with bad health care, so they have to give something in return by weighing on a scale. Whoever has the highest amount doesn't get drilled in the head. Well, that's not fair, the guy has an advantage. So the lady chops off her arm, and I guess muscle is heavier than fat. Then we get a flashback of Amanda with Cecil, what? But no time, as we get a recap of the ending of the last film. Strom is, definitely squashed, and Kaufman's fine. Meanwhile, at the insurance place, this place only accepts people if they're already healthy, as the owner, William, tells Debbie about a guy who had bad health already.
Oral surgery is going to leave scar tissue. Scar tissue can lead to gum disease, and as you well know, gum disease can cause heart disease.
I mean, yeah, that's true and all, but that's total bullshit for not accepting him because of that. Gotta love America. And a reminder, this movie did come out in 2009.
Holy shit, is that Obama?
Kaufman's listening to tapes, but he's gotta go back to work investigating the opening. And Strom's fingerprints is on the guy's face. And plot twist, Perez is alive!
Strom couldn't let them get away, so he put them in a trap in which slaughtering each other was the only way out.
That's missing the point of the trap from the last film. They're all supposed to work together. Then Kaufman gets interviewed by Pamela Jenkins, who wrote a book about Jigsaw, and we actually saw in the last film, when he got the reward. Kaufman visits the opening girl and asks if she learned anything, and she didn't. Meanwhile, with Jill, she opens the box from the last film, and inside was a bunch of photographs of people from this film. Kaufman flashes back to 4, the morgue. In prison times, he's also in a morgue, and people are starting to notice the different parts of people that are getting cut out are with different knives. They might have a way to
voice filter
on the tapes.
Kaufman tells Jill, apparently they're talking. Jill gives him a thing, and then she flashes back to when Jigsaw was in his bald era. Past Jigsaw tells her that he doesn't really agree with her methods. I mean, just look at what he did with Amanda, and you thought she was a lost cause. Meanwhile, William thinks he's getting stalked, so he pulls his gun and accidentally shoots his security guard, which distracts him enough to get pig-masked. And he wakes up in a thing. Instead of a Billy tape, Jigsaw decided to make this a little more personal and go in his person tape. And Jigsaw, like everyone, hates for-profit insurance, and he should insure people with actually bad health. So to teach William a lesson, he strapped bombs to his limbs, and it will go off in an hour if he doesn't get through everything. Meanwhile, in cages, Tara and Brent get to watch the games themselves. Will and Janitor have to play the hold your breath game. Whoever can hold their breath longest won't get pinched. Unfortunately, the janitor's in quite poor health and is a smoker, so Will wins this pretty easily. Also, he's got a stitch. He unlocks one of his bombs. Pam goes to ask Jill about things, but she slams the door in her face, and she gets pig cat. Under the bomb straps, Will realizes he's got a new tattoo, the party. And he flashes back to when him and Jigsaw were talking during a party, and Jigsaw doesn't really like his methods of insuring people who are already healthy. Will wanders around and realizes this place is a former zoo. He comes across an exhibit with a hanging Billy in it, which leads to the next game. He has to choose between two people to save. His secretary, who's older and has a family history of diabetes, but she also has a family, or his filing clerk, who's perfectly healthy and fine and young and doesn't really have anything in this world, who's the kind of person that Will would normally insure. So he has to make the hard decision, as well as getting forced by pulley mechanisms, and eventually he decides with the secretary. Pam wakes up in a cage, and we get a flashback of Kaufman setting up for Saw 3, and it turns out him and Amanda did meet, but they still don't like each other, because Kaufman literally just tosses the guy on the ground and just sets him up in the trap. And I like that Jigsaw is frustrated that his two surrogate kids aren't working well together. Then Jill comes to visit, and Jigsaw gives her the key she had in 4 and then used on 5 in the box. Then she drops something off at the doctor's office. Will be paid off later, I guess. Then Will gets into his next obstacle, and he finds on his arm another tattoo, Final Decision. Remembering when he turned down John Kramer for having cancers, I just thought of it like in an alternate reality, Amanda, Kaufman, Jigsaw, Breaking Bad. Will enters Freddy Krueger's boiler room. He's got to guide Debbie through a steam maze. He can turn the steam off her and onto him, When she makes it to the end, it turns out, oh, the key's inside of Will. So she's got to cut it open with a saw. So he just has to keep dodging and dodging until time runs up and the thing she's strapped to stabs her in the face. Meanwhile, with Kaufman, it turns out the FBI has something. Back with Jill, she goes into the final note. Back with Will, he goes to a carnival of souls as he finds his top employee strapped to a merry-go-round. They'll spin around and randomly it'll stop and they'll get shot with a shotgun unless Will puts his hand into a drill and stops it. But he only has 2 saves. This is one of the funnest and longest traps in all of Saw, and that's even cutting it down from its original 10. Back with the FBI, they don't actually have it, but they're close as they're de-scrambling the voice. Erickson realizes that Strom's hand was actually from a dead man. They're on to Kaufman.
Right now, you're feeling helpless.
He deals with the FBI, has a quick flashback to remember that, oh yeah, Strom's hand did somehow survive getting crushed, and he burns the place down. Then Jill leaves a note at his lair, which turns out to be a copy of the note that he left Amanda, and plot twist, Amanda used to date Cecil, and it was actually her who sent Cecil into the clinic to steal the drugs, which eventually led to Jill. Kaufman somehow found this out and then used it as blackmail on Amanda to kill Lynn and try and get her killed. But ooh, Jill shows up and gets Kaufman in the flashback with a taser chair. Meanwhile, Will got through everything, and plot twist, Brent and Tara are not actually related to him. They're related to the guy that he turned the insurance down to. And actually, Pam is his sister. And in their cage is a big switch that says live or die hooked up to some acid. Tara hates him for not insuring them. She tries to pull the switch, but she can't help to do it. But Brent can. And wait a minute, I know this guy. It's Roderick. Man, movies are weird like that. And ooh, Will gets the needles in the back hooked up to the acid, so he melts from the inside. Then back with Jill, Jigsaw's real final wishes were to test Kaufman, so he gets put into a reverse bear trap, just like Amanda was. The scene also definitely does pay tribute to that scene with its cinematography. But oh no, there's no key for this. So Kaufman thinks fast and has to shove his face into the bars on the window. 1 second to spare, which gives him enough time to peel it off his face before it overpowers the bars. Then in the post-credits scene, Amanda tells Jeff's daughter to not trust the man who saves her, which doesn't really go anywhere, and I don't really know why she did it. Final body count? 14. Saw 7's great. Will is an interesting protagonist that you do kind of feel for, but also you do want him to suffer a little because American insurance is, at the time, and still, even almost 20 years later, really bad because of people like him. This film has some of the coolest and most elaborate traps in the entire franchise. I like seeing more of Kaufman's development, him having to deal with the fallout and eventually getting tested. I'm kind of iffy on the whole Cecil-Amanda connection. I don't know, it's kind of like with Batman who killed his parents. I think it should more or less be something more random than connecting Cecil to Amanda. And yeah, of course, they keep hinting to more sequels. But overall, I'll give this film a 9 out of 10.